No names though. Man, I know some hoes who talk to a nigga so crazy, man. That's why you gotta have your own pay. Bitch gonna dog you out if she taking care of real business. That's the only way. Bitch gonna talk to you like a peon, nigga, if you out here living like a chump, nigga. You better run this shit up and quit playing. That was my biggest motivation to get some paper, though. How a hoe treat you. How a hoe treat you when you down. That was my biggest motivation. I never wanted to feel like less of a man. Even though I've been a G. When I was broke, I was a G, so it never was about just physically having pay. But it's just about how a bitch look at you when you ain't got no pay. How they treat you. How they treat you when you ain't got no pay, man. That's gonna make you wanna get paid. That's gonna make you wanna keep paid. Bitch will treat you like a real chump, man. She gonna treat you like you ain't not him, knowing the whole time you him.
So I'm sure you have no idea who that is. That is Peasy. He is a Detroit rapper, and he is a street rapper at that. So a few reasons why we're going to get into this topic, and we use that, as a preface. The first thing is, even though he's a street rapper and street dude and stuff like that, this is pretty universal within the black community. Some of the same women, the women that you think are quality women, yeah, they still date the Pookies and Ray Rays and things like that. It's in their past, especially if this is a chick and you don't know her past, you don't know her full whole facts. Like, yeah, she's probably got some of these guys on there. But the second thing is, this can actually transcend just, black Americans and things like that. Not necessarily the respect, but certain dynamics that definitely play a factor in what we're going to talk about today. And this is something that I touch on the channel quite a bit. So let's get into it as far as the respect when it comes to finances and women. When I was younger, I had a friend, and I'm talking about in my early 20s. I'm talking 21. I had a friend, you know, his mom had got a promotion at work, and she had had the promotion for a little while. Like, she had got the promotion probably a year ago, and she had the promotion. Whatever was going on, as far as the dad who had been putting food on the table most of this dude's life and stuff like that, and who had been the breadwinner, he was no longer the breadwinner in this black household and stuff like that. One of the things that my friend told me is that since the mom became the breadwinner, she began to become more disrespectful to the father. Now, I'm not in the household. I wasn't there. And this was a long time ago because I'm kind of an old dude. So I can't remember the details, but that was the first time I heard of something like that. That was the first time that I heard a woman's attitude towards a man that she's married to changed after she began to make more money than the man. Now, I've told other stories on the channel about this one chick I had a conversation with about the guy that she was with. She was with a guy who was the breadwinner. He was a street dude. He was up and all of that stuff. And she loved him and respected him and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure she even had a baby by dude. Everything was good until it wasn't, until there was a drought. I don't know. Poppy must have got nabbed, and his connect or whatever wasn't coming through, whatever the case may have been. So she had to pick up the slack. She had to pick up the slack in the household and stuff like that and make everything work. But then, during that took away some of the submissiveness that she had and stuff like that. So this is where the conversation was kind of funny. The guy had became the breadwinner again, like the supreme breadwinner. So after that drought, however long it was, it could have been 6 months, it could have been a year, it could have been a year and a half. It wasn't a super long time, but he got back up and he was able to, get them right. And now they could go on vacation, do all that, fancy stuff and stuff like that again. She got mad that this cat had a sock on the floor and lost it because he had a sock on the floor because she not supposed to clean up after him, et cetera, et cetera. Why did she amp on him because there was a sock on the floor? Because you walk on the floor, with your feet. And if a sock is on the floor, I don't know where the sock was, but it's kind of crazy because it's like We had a whole conversation, and she was saying that she don't want to wash nobody's socks, and et cetera, et cetera. Da, 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 da. But I'm pretty sure she was washing them socks and everything when she didn't have to work. When she didn't have to work, everything was good. The sock could have been on the ceiling fan. She was going to clean it. These are things I said to her, by the way. So with that being said, that stint that she had with the man where he lost the money, things got pettier and it changed. She didn't like seeing him play Madden when she felt like she had to work because she started working and all of that stuff. Now, listen, I could keep going on with stories like this, but this is the point. You see a lot of these chicks on social media saying, and this is mostly black women, saying, I don't want to go 50-50. The Carrie Hilson post, matter of fact, for once, I'm going to put it on the screen so you can see it. Men who provide emotional security and display wise leadership will get the softest, most feminine, relaxed, trusting, guard down, submissive, nurturing version of their woman. Even successful, strong women want to feel safe and be soft. That is our true nature. The man who makes me feel safe will have the world. Now, this is the thing. When you look at that, that sounds cool because she says emotional security and you should take her words at face value, right? But this is the thing that happened in like 2022 or something like that. And this is in the midst of all this Kevin Samuels stuff, all this Fresh and Fit stuff, all this dating show 50-50. Like, you see the tweet on the screen that I have right now. And it's just like the conversation, this battle of the sexes conversation in the black community on the internet has been going on since at least 2015. Since at least 2015. It began bubbling and we began having the 50-50 conversations and stuff like that. And the thing that's always tied to it is submission. So even though Carrie Hilson is a black woman that's saying emotional security, money is what most people are going to take from it. Because as far as the narrative, the bigger narrative outside of her is money equals submission in the black community. If you pay the cost to be the boss, you the boss. Now, let me tell you on some real shit, it doesn't even always work out like that. You could still be the breadwinner. You could still make the money and you could still be with a woman who does not want to submit to you, who doesn't really respect you, and things of that nature. So it's not just get more money and you will be respected. No, some of these women just don't have it in them to respect a man. Period, point blank. But like I do in a lot of my videos, I'm going to break down on a financial tip how this issue came about and why it's a thing and why it's going to be hard to overcome as a society. So I'm going to make a long story less long and just try and condense a lot of points without going into too much detail. So when you look back in the 1950s and all of that stuff, the 1930s, whatever years it was, before the 60s, before feminism really began to get it cracking and stuff like that, men were the breadwinner. And not only were they the breadwinners, the way the economy was set up at that time, even if you were black, first off, the availability of jobs that could, help you maintain a household and stuff like that, they were abundant. The barrier to entry to these was very low. You really didn't have to have like a master's degree or get $200,000 worth of debt through college to have some of these good jobs. A perfect example is something like a steel mill or something like that. But this is the other thing with the way the economy was at that time. You could buy a house. You could buy a house and raise a family of anywhere from 4 to 12. 4 to 12 without having to get government assistance, without having to have the government step in or nothing like that. So you could take care of a household. What happens? Feminism really starts coming in. I think in the 30s, World War II, that's when women started working, but they wanted equal wage and stuff like that. So boom, things start to happen things start to happen in the workforce. Women begin to get jobs. They don't get the tough jobs like the steel mill and stuff, but they start to get jobs. Now, with them getting jobs and things of that nature, things begin to shift. But also, even outside of just the money, the culture begins to shift to where, the 60s and the 70s, free love, all that stuff, like, contraception is there and stuff like that. So you could go, get an abortion, all that stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So different methods of birth control began to get introduced over time and stuff like that. The culture changes to where, man, we could do a lot of fucking with no consequences and stuff like that. Cats had the big AIDS scare in the 80s and stuff like that. But of course, that was overcame. That really didn't slow down the amount of sex that was happening. So with that being said, those two things begin to shift. Women begin to make more money to where they can provide for themselves. And then on top of that, you have, the whole contraception and things of that nature, birth control. So you have those two things going on. Again, I don't want to go deep because I could go back. We could talk about the government assistance coming in, getting the man out of the home and stuff like that, et cetera, et cetera. But when we get to today, the issue that we have today is that when it comes to men, men have not changed. But as far as women, their circumstances have changed. And as far as the economy has changed. The job market within the economy has also changed. When you look at the jobs that they have out here for you, you could go and work at a fast food spot or something like that, no problem. You could go work at Walmart, bag up some groceries or whatever. That is bullshit money. No disrespect to anybody that does that. I do not, crap on people for whatever jobs they have. So I'm not speaking down on anybody. I'm talking about the wages that are given at these jobs and what type of life you could live in the environment that we have in America today. With those jobs, you're going to, if you are a single man with no kids, don't let you have any kids in any of these situations I'm about to mention. If you're a single man with no kids and you work at one of these low tier jobs with low wages, you're going to have a roommate, or you're going to have to live in a studio apartment, or you are going to have to budget so tight that you can really not eat. So that's the first thing. We just get that out the way. But then when we talk about going to step up and stuff like that, okay, they do have factories and stuff like that to where you could get in, and it'd be hard to get in some of these factories that are paying $20+ an hour. There were GM plants and things out here at one point until GM took all their stuff and pushed it overseas and stuff. When they did that, a lot of jobs were either lost or people had to move to different locations where they still do have GM plants in America. So as far as that, yeah, it might provide a lot of jobs, but the barrier to entry as far as access, it's not that easy. It's not to where everybody can get that job. Even then, as far as some of those jobs, they don't pay 20. Like they might pay you 15. They might pay you 18. Even if you look at a job like being what you call it, correctional officer or getting a CDL, you have to get training and certification for that. So there is a barrier to entry there. Sometimes you have to go for the CO stuff. You have to go out of town. You have to go out of town and stay somewhere for a certain amount of time to get to train. So it's like, all right, so you got stuff like that. The barrier to entry is higher for jobs to where you can actually, begin to have some type of lifestyle. And when I say lifestyle, I mean like, okay, you can have a crib by yourself as a single guy with no kids and no girl. With no kids and no girl. Let me say it one more time. With no kids and no girl. If you're getting hit with child support, whoo! And let's talk about when you get a girl. So now you got all these wage issues as far as the job market and things like that. But we haven't even gotten to inflation. Let's just go to inflation. Rent has went up. Places that were $500 to rent 10 years ago are now somewhere in the ballpark of 650 to 700. And if you look at the wage increase, the wage has not increased that much. Now, I said I was going to make this short. So let me just condense all of this, man. Throw a woman in the mix, throw a kid in the mix with the wages that I'm talking about and with the inflation that I'm talking about that we have in America today. It is very hard and damn near impossible for the average man to provide not just for a woman, but for a family. Do you understand that? It is hard for a man to provide, the average man. And let me be clear when we're talking about average man. What I'm saying is, if you think about the 1950s and stuff like that, like most of the guys would be working and they had their own, like it wasn't like a super struggle for a guy to have his own like shit. Most guys had their own stuff. They had their own spot, like just all of everything, all the ducks was in a row. And it didn't take a tremendous amount of effort or anything. All you had to do was go and apply. That was it. Now, the route to just that is much harder. And even when you get that, unlike the people in 1950, you can't provide for a family of 8 or 12. You can't do that. You can't do that with the way things are going on out here. One child today, and this is the other thing, both parents have to work in that household. So this whole 50-50 thing that these chicks is talking about is not even realistic. It's not even realistic for most people, for the average people. But when you get on Instagram and you see all the jet skis and the Miami booty shaking and then just the guy, oh man, let's get onto our private jet. Everybody wants to live that fantasy. Even if you think I might not be able to live that fantasy, but just give me 2 pegs down to where I'm living in a loft in Miami and I could take walks on the beach every day. Like, that is not average. That is not what most people are going to have. So without me going too much deeper, I think you get the point. As far as being a 90 to 10 provider instead of 50-50 and things of that nature, it is very unrealistic for most men. Now, you may have some men who are in exceptional positions and stuff like that. Again, that is not going to be the majority of men. That is not going to be the majority of men. So then you're going to have women fighting for like what, the top 10%, top 5%, whatever it is. And everybody can't do that. Now, you see me talk a lot on the channel about how these chicks fuck with broke dudes. It's one thing to have a short-term relation. It's another thing to actually lock in with a chick and have a long-term relation. 2 completely different things. If you are an avid watcher on my channel, I want to make that distinction. Now, this is the point of me going through that whole explanation. If most men are not able to provide, and most women require a man to provide to be respected, then there's not going to be much respect in most households. That's just what it is. And when you look at all of the dysfunction that we look at in this dating stuff, it can be linked to those 3 things that I have already mentioned. It can be linked to feminism. It can be linked to the economy. And it can also be linked to contraception as far as birth control. Those 3 things change the game. And it's just funny to me that the people, as far as black women and black people just in general, the women who come from one of the most impoverished communities in America, one of the most impoverished demographics, publicly expect the most from their men. And then after all the disrespect and all of that, they get mad when the dudes become passport bros. They get mad when the dudes go and date white women or Asians or whatever they decide to do. When all you have to do is treat the men well. That's all you have to do. But I guess that is too much to ask. So with that, I'm done for today. At some point, I'm going to do a more detailed video of all the things that I mentioned. But those are points that I drive home that a lot of people don't talk about on YouTube or anywhere when it comes to this. And one of the things about it is that there is no grand solution, as far as the majority of people. There is no grand solution. So this dysfunction is going to continue to exist in society until there is a remedy, but there's not going to be a remedy anytime soon, probably not even in our lifetime. So it is what it is. Just deal with it. But let me know your thoughts on going.